Oh hey! So for those of you who've been watching my videos and following my blog for a while, you might remember a video where I have been similarly dressed. Alright, now I'm all blinged out. Where I talked about my most influential and my favorite teachers from public school, so like kindergarten through 12th grade. And so I thought, because my last day of classes for my undergraduate experience was yesterday, I thought I wanted to update that. So I wanted to talk about the best professors and mentors I've had since coming to college. Here is my creative writing tassel. It's white, which is boring. But look, 2014. That's me. So the first professor I have to talk about, obviously, is one of probably my favorite educators of all time, Brent Johnson. This is Brent. You might remember him from a lot of my Spain videos last year. Yeah, he's fantastic, and he's actually the reason that I stayed in college. So some of you might remember a video I posted and a blog I posted early during my freshman year of college. In the first semester, I talked about how, like the pros and cons of dropping out of college, because I was really, really unhappy. I came to this school to learn about writing, and the only writing experience I'd had up to that point during that first semester was from a science professor who, while he may be great at his job, is not a writing professor, and so only taught like the really strict formal academic writing that I really didn't want or care to learn about. So I was really struggling with, like, I'm in college to learn about writing, but if this is the style of writing that I'm supposed to learn in college, then I don't know if this is for me. But luckily I stuck it out for the rest of the year, and my second semester I had Brent as my expository writing professor, so it was my first real writing class that was for writing and not just for welcome to college, this is how you do college. And his class was everything I needed. His class talked almost immediately about how it's totally okay to use I language, I feel, I believe in academic papers, and he talked a lot about how he doesn't think that having a little bit more of a colloquial, voice-oriented language style in formal essays should make them any less formal or academic. And I really appreciated that, because I totally agree. I don't understand why you have to write in really long sentences and really big words to get across an idea that doesn't need to be that complicated. I really do credit Brent Johnson with keeping me in college, and since that class, that first expository writing class, I've taken almost every class he's ever offered, except for like maybe 1 or 2 lit classes. I took travel writing in Spain with him, I took creative nonfiction and poetry with him, I took US-British cyber exchange literature class with him, and I took a tutoring class with him. Yeah, I've taken a lot of classes with Brent, and I was also his FYS mentor this year. I talked about that probably earlier in the year, but of course I was his FYS mentor because he was such a huge influence on my college career. He has been probably the most influential person on my academic career, and I cannot thank him enough. And also he's awesome, so there's that. The next teacher I want to talk about is my current thesis advisor, even though Brent's my academic advisor, but Kathleen Postma is my thesis advisor, and I have to give her a shout out as well, because I've taken almost as many classes with her as I have with Brent. Kathleen is a totally different type of professor than Brent, but she's been just as valuable. She's probably been more valuable as far as like the nitty-gritty of my writing style goes, because I only got to take 2 writing classes with Brent, and neither of them were in genres that I'm particularly passionate about. But they were really valuable in their own right. But Kathleen has been my fiction professor and my fiction lit professor throughout college, and so she has been really influential in like shaping my writing style. She was one of the first people that was like really forced me to look at how I describe things and what is important for me to describe, and that was really good because I don't like doing that. I hate it. And she recognized that about me immediately and has been really helpful in getting me to, talk about stuff that I don't care about, describing people and settings and actions and stuff. Kathleen is also really good at leading workshops. Brent was good at workshops too, but for some reason Kathleen's workshops in like fiction writing classes are just really, really useful to me. She basically doesn't let you talk at all until everyone's done talking about your work to force you to listen, which I think is really valuable and something that I needed to learn, because I'm a kind of a defensive person. I like to argue, and so if somebody's talking about something I've done, I want to defend it, but not being able to forces me to actually listen to critique and learn from it, and that was really valuable for me. So Kathleen has been a huge shaper of my writing style and my writing ability in my chosen genre, and that has been really great. She's also super cool as well. So yeah, both of my most influential writing professors since coming to college have been Brent and Kathleen, and they have both been super cool people in addition to being super great teachers. Another person I need to mention is Darlene Pagan, who was my academic advisor for the first 2 years. She went on sabbatical during my junior year, so I had to switch to Brent. But during those first 2 years, even though I only took one class with her, which was, I took advanced creative nonfiction with her, which was fun. That's kind of where Quinn and I got to know each other a lot better, so I definitely have to thank her for that. But also, she was a really great academic advisor for me because she knew early on that I wasn't going to need as much guidance as other people, but I would need a different kind of guidance. Like, I wasn't the kind of person that would go into an advising session and be like, what classes should I take? Because I already had that down. So what I really went in to talk to her about was like, so would it be feasible for me to add 3 extra minors? You know, what should I take if I want to do this? Who should I talk to about that kind of stuff? And so she was really valuable to me because she didn't try and like treat me as a, I don't want to say average advisee. You know, I'm not saying that I'm so much better than everyone else, but I was at a different place than I think a lot of people were when they first came into college. I was much more organized, and it was really nice for her to recognize that early on and work with me instead of trying to, you know, pigeonhole me into a different type of student than I was, and I just felt that was really useful and really helpful for me. And she's also just one of the sweetest human beings I've ever met, so I'm really glad to have known her for the time that I did. So thank you, Darlene. Moving away from writing professors a bit, I gotta give a shout out to my speech coach, Dan Broyles, who you guys have seen before through all of my travel videos for international speech tournaments. Even though I've never taken a class with Dan because he's in the communications department, I've actually spoken in 2 of his classes over the past 2 years during his social media sections of the class, because obviously my thesis is a book written in blogs and Facebook messages and emails and stuff like that. So I've actually gotten to talk to 2 of his classes about, you know, the formulation of my thesis and the intricate way that social media plays a role in our news stories and stuff like that. So that's been really cool, and I really appreciated those opportunities. But also I just appreciate Dan because he's one of those people that, you know, is clearly very, very intelligent and knows what he's talking about and is a, you know, great professional, great speaker, great sort of organizer of thoughts. But he's also just one of the coolest people I've ever met. Like, I like just hanging out with Dan. When we were in when we were in Antwerp last year, Colton and I went out to dinner with him, like one of the last nights we were there, and we just all like drank and talked for probably 4 or 5 hours. And it was one of the coolest experiences of my life because, you know, even though he's a coach of mine and so an educator of mine, he's also kind of one of my friends, and I really appreciated that bond because I didn't feel like I got that in high school from my speech coaches. There was definitely the student-coach divide, which I didn't really get in college, and so I really appreciate that from Dan because, you know, he's been hugely influential in shaping my speaking style and the way that I kind of see myself and see others. So that was obviously really important to my development, and I appreciate him 100% for that. One professor that I just met this semester, unfortunately, but has had a really huge influence on me is my screenwriting professor, Enye Vaisbird. She is obviously a film and video production professor, so I didn't have a lot of contact with her. I had never met her really before this semester, but she has been really great in helping me develop my screenwriting style because I've never done any kind of screenwriting, except now I'm going to graduate school for it. So I figured I should probably take a class in it so I at least know how to format the stupid scripts. And she's been really great for that. And also, as you all know, I'm kind of crazy, so I had actually finished the first draft of my screenplay before the class even started. So I was, you know, ages ahead of everyone else in my class as far as the writing process went. And as soon as she found out about that, she was kind of mad at me. She was like, you've had the whole script this whole time and just have been sitting here listening to me talk about structuring Act 1? And I was like, well, yeah, because I learned some valuable stuff and then edited and things. And so once she found out that I had a full script, she started meeting with me once a week to go over it because she was like, well, you're already at this other level, so let's work with that. Like, I don't want you to just sit here and learn about, you know, how to come up with ideas if you've already got your whole thing worked out. out. So she's been really, really great about taking the time to work with me individually, and since I'm so much further along than my classmates, has really tried to make sure that I'm getting just as much out of it as they are, just at a different sort of period of time during the writing process. And I really appreciated that, because this is going to be my career, and going into grad school I wanted to have at least a basic understanding of what I was doing, and I have come out of that class with, you know, much greater than just a basic understanding, and I credit that entirely to Enye and her actually working with me, and, you know, not just saying, well, make sure you pay attention in class. So that was really great. So I guess the last person I want to talk about specifically is Kelly Chastain. So you guys know Kelly from several of my videos. She went to NULC with me last year in Dinoland. She went to Spain with me when I was in that travel writing class with Brent. And even though she wasn't a professor of mine, she has probably been the biggest mentor influence on me that I've had in college. Obviously all these professors have been, you know, mentors of kinds to me, but Kelly, I don't know, Kelly's on a totally different level. I met her my sophomore year when we got put in a writing group together in Intro to Fiction class, and at first I didn't know if I would like her, because she was very loud in class and very like opinionated, which I love about her now. But when you first meet someone like that, sometimes it's hard to like know if they're going to take what you have to say seriously, because I'd had an experience with non-traditional classmates where they tended to talk down to me because I was younger than them, even though we were in the same class. And so I was a little wary about going into this writing group with her, but immediately all of my fears just like dissolved, because she's seriously the coolest person I've ever met. Like sometimes I'm just like sitting and writing, and I remember that I'm friends with her, and I'm like, oh my god, how did I live before our friendship? Because she's amazing. She has done every job imaginable. She's so creative and talented, and she's just an all-around amazing, non-judgmental person, and she has been a huge influence on me and a huge mentor for me, both as a writer and as a human being. She actually read more of the thesis that I wrote than my thesis advisor or my thesis designated writing group. Like when I first wrote The Secret Life of Jane, my thesis novel, she read the entire 260-page manuscript like multiple times and helped me edit the story and the arcs and stuff. So even though she was working on her own senior thesis at the time. So clearly she's an amazing person who would just do that, but she's also been a really close friend of mine for ever since I met her. And I cannot speak enough good things about Kelly Chastain. We haven't been as close this semester, this whole year really, because she graduated, so we weren't in classes together anymore, and you know, we both have so many things going on. But this semester we've hung out a couple of times, and every single time I'm just struck by how cool of a person she is and how much I want to be like her. You know, she's one of those people that's like, you can't believe that they exist, because they are just so put together, but in such an interesting way. Like, she's just an amazing human, and I want to be as much like her as possible, because she is great. And even though she wasn't a teacher of mine, definitely she was a mentor and a huge influence on who I am today. So that's really all. I mean, obviously all of my professors in college have been amazing. I've only had maybe 2 experiences with professors that I really disliked, and I've only had a handful of classes that I disliked, you know, regardless of how much I liked the professor. But overall, my experience in college has been amazing. During public school, I never felt like I quite fit in, and I was never totally happy, but college has been the best 4 years of my life, and I credit that very highly with the caliber of professors that I managed to meet with, and just the amazing human beings that I ended up around, regardless of whether or not they were educators or fellow students. So thank you, Pacific University, for everything you've done for me. Thank you to the professors I mentioned in this video and to the professors that I didn't, and thank you to all of my friends and teammates, etc., that I have met through this experience, because I feel like a better person than I was those 4 years ago when I made this first video, and I am so excited to see where I go next.